record that, Jim. Bet.
Sup YT, and welcome to the Noire review for the PlayStation 3. A lot of misconception about this game. A lot of people think this is an in-house developed Rockstar game. However, the truth is that this game was actually developed by a small third-party company all the way across the pond, basically, you could say, in Australia by the name of Team Bondi. Rockstar only released the game and published it. So I want to just get that out of the way real early. This is not exactly a Rockstar game, but it is published by them. So this is a Team Bondi game, and I think they deserve the credit. They deserve the review, and Rockstar just deserves for making a good decision to decide to publish this game. Noire is a period piece game that takes place in the 1940s Los Angeles. It's very much a detective and cops and robbers based game, and it drops you into the shoes of a character named Cole Phelps, a very young beat cop, very early into his LAPD career. Cole is actually an interesting and likable character. He's actually a war hero in this game, but he comes off as though he wasn't proud of what he did in the war, which is later on discovered through not only in-game cutscenes, but also flashbacks to war-torn Japan. Cole's guilt leads him to go above and beyond the law, and actually makes him an excellent cop, and also an even better detective. Cole is by far the cream of the crop when it comes down to detective work, investigations, and case solving. Cole himself, though, has a very weird personality, almost standoffish, and he's what I would call an impersonal character. Cole in general is actually one of the biggest issues I had with this game, and not of the character itself, but how they decided to develop him, and also how he kind of outgrew the narrative. Cole as a character is fine. It's a pretty typical archetype. He's a hero with a torn past. Obviously, this has been done before. I mean, it's been done to death, but, you know, they did it a little more subtly than other people have. Cole basically, like I said, outgrows the very linear narrative of the game. And I think once he does that, they immediately cut him out of the game. So that's one of my biggest gripes with Cole. Also, Cole is not a personable character. We don't connect with Cole. They don't let us see Cole. I attribute Cole's life to what I would call an episode of Cops. We meet Cole when he's at work. 8 o'clock in the morning, he punches in. We're there. We're over his shoulder. As long as Cole's working, we're filming him. But as soon as Cole's punching out from LAPD, the cameras go off. Because of how impersonal the game was with Cole, I actually expected like a twist ending, as if the game was being narrated by one of Cole's ex-partners, or all of the partners sitting in a room together, playing poker and smoking cigars, as they laugh and like have fun and reminisce about how they used to drive around with this young gung-ho cop that used to want to solve all the cases and get to all the facts and do everything by the book. But in fact, we didn't get anything even close to that. We got a pretty typical ending due to the archetype they chose for Cole, where he basically redeems himself at the end. It was very predictable. I saw it coming hours and hours and hours before the game even ended. And also, we got pretty much the same thing most noir pieces do, is crime pays and the good die young. So, suffice to say, I was fairly disappointed in how the game ended, but that doesn't take away from how excellent this game really is. Even though the ending is a letdown, the rest of the game really does shine. Now, the first thing I want to talk about as far as gameplay-wise is the detective work. I love the feeling of the detective work. I love finding clues. The interviews, oh my goodness, dude. The interviews and the facial capture in this game are excellent. I really can't say how awesome it was to actually be able to see all the little annotations in someone's face and actually be able to tell when someone's actually lying. And instead of like some games where you got to decide if someone's telling the truth or something, you basically got to look at a computer-controlled puppet that's been animated, and it never just looks right. This game captures that feeling perfectly. I mean, I really can't complain about anything as far as interviews go. The clue finding, it is kind of boring. I mean, some people aren't going to want to sit there and run around and pick up clues and shit, but I can understand that. However, the game does a great job of getting you to the clues by using musical cues and things like that. It also does an even better job of telling you when you've got all the clues in an area. with another musical cue. I think that was a great design choice that not only saves you a lot of legwork, but also saves you a lot of time in, running around hoping to Christ you've got all the clues you need. I think they did a great job with that, personally. I've read in some other places that, they think the case solving and the clue solving is really dumbed down by putting in all these hints and tips and things like that. I don't think so. The intuition points are a great idea. It will help newer players that don't exactly pay as much attention as like someone like me. I was very invested in this game. This game completely locked me in. I love doing the interviews. I mean, the interview system is very, very simplistic. However, putting the clues together with when people are lying was extremely difficult to me, and toward the end of the game, I found myself in the freaking notebook constantly, just reading each clue I have to try to make connections. I think the interviews were this game's greatest success. I was really skeptical when I heard about how this game was basically going to play out, if it would be good enough, or if they could pull off the faces like they said they would. But this game blew me away and blew right past my expectations. I mean, the characters feel so real when you're talking to them. It really adds another layer of depth to the interview system. Now, I could talk about these interviews all day. Alright, let's talk about some of the other gameplay aspects of this game. Aside from the facial mapping and the new facial animation, LA Noire really doesn't do anything new with the free roam genre. And actually, this can be kind of a slow paced game. LA Noire is very much a slow paced game. It's not for people that have short attention spans, because there's not always a lot that's going on. LA Noire, however, does have a lot of driving in it. LA Noire has a huge amount of driving in it, actually. My real problem with the driving was how unrealistically responsive most of the cars were. It made turning and just the overall feel of the game a little wonky and a little cartoony. Also, the chase sequences. While the chase sequences could be exciting, it basically felt like you were chasing an opponent on rails. The opponents would never do something different. They never try to swerve and hit you. They'd always just try to get away in the same way possible every single time. Now, this to me is really disappointing. I was actually looking forward to like having some car chases that were pretty badass. I mean, toward the end, I did like have a little bit more fun with the car chases simply because I learned how to spin people out and make them do barrel rolls and stuff. However, I was also disappointed that you could never shoot out the window. I mean, you always got to let your partner shoot out people's tires, but you never get to do that yourself. So that actually was my biggest gripe as far as the driving sections were concerned. I want to shoot people's tires out, and they never gave me that option. So that is definitely a big old deal to me. So I hope for LA Noire 2 that is actually implemented, because I want to shoot some tires, man. I want to burn some rubber. Now, basically in LA Noire, if you're not chasing someone in a car, you're chasing them on foot. LA Noire does a great job with the basically a bit of the drama as far as chases go. There's a lot of ways to end a chase. You could tackle the perp, or you can, of course, fire a warning shot, which causes them to stop. Now, not all chases can be won in that manner. A lot of the chases are pretty scripted and end with basically a melee confrontation, where you go fist to fist with one of the enemies or one of the criminals. I actually think the melee parts of this game were the most fun. I loved getting down and dirty, strafing left and right in this dirty boxing stance. As Phelps pretty much has this old school fisticuffs boxing stance. I mean, it's really, really like post-50s boxing. It was really fun to watch, and it felt and handled really great. The game does a great job of being cinematic in these sections as well, and I actually enjoyed that more than the actual gunfighting in this game. But speaking of gunfights, let's go right into the gunfighting. The gunfighting in LA Noire is very, very mediocre. It's semi-advanced. There's a cover system. You can SWAT roll. You can go around corners while sticking to cover, and you can blind fire. But I really found no uses for the blind fire, and I'm still figuring out what the hell the blind fire is in the game for. There's also no suppressive effect against your enemies as far as shooting at them and keeping them in cover. The enemies are very scripted and very easy to read. Most enemies are either going to do one of two things. They're going to get to cover and then pop out of cover either high, shoot twice and go back, or pop out of cover low, shoot twice and go back. I really never felt any tactics by the enemies to work together to beat me, personally. It always seemed like one-man army-ish type things. Now, also, my problem with the gunplay in the game is the game doesn't have enough gunfighting to keep you going, like, in the mix. A lot of times I'd either forget the controls because I'd have a gunfight, and then I'd have 3 hours of downtime where there's no gunplay whatsoever. And then by the time I'm back to playing gunfighting, I've forgotten the controls, I've forgotten how fast the cursor moves. I've really become out of the flow, as you would say. I mean, a lot of third-person shooters achieve that flow in gaming where you're constantly shooting to keep your, wits up, to keep your accuracy up, to keep your skills up. This game never really allows you to skill cap as far as gunfighting is concerned, so to me that was a big letdown. Now, I know this is obviously not a criminal game. We're not shooting up the streets. We're not doing any of that. The game actually rewards you more for being a good guy, not running over civilians, not killing random people, basically only taking down the criminals and saving everybody in the near vicinity is always going to get you a 5-star rating. You actually even get less points for damage to the city, because that is obviously a big issue. The department has to pay that off. And also damage to your vehicle. That comes out of you and your partner's paycheck. So I thought that was really a nice touch to encourage people to play safer, to play like you're an actual police officer. Another great thing about LA Noire is just the period. The developers obviously put a lot of effort into researching 1940s everything. Los Angeles feels period. From the guys walking down the street in full suits and fedoras to women in beautiful dresses, and the hair is period, the faces are period, the dialogue is period, the slang is period, the cars are period, the streets are period, the radio is period. My only gripe about the radio was, oh my god, let me switch radio stations, let me listen to music. It really did get repetitive as far as soundtrack is concerned because of that. However, we're not talking about soundtrack, we are talking about period. So everything was very genuine, the world feels very genuine. I really have no complaints about the world whatsoever. The map was plenty big. I mean, there was a lot of driving you could do in this game. And by no means was it a small map. I mean, it wasn't as big as other free roaming games, but the map was sufficient for what the game wanted to accomplish. The last thing about LA Noire I'm going to talk about is the supporting cast. I pretty much liked all of the partners that Cole had. Everyone had a different personality. Rusty actually stood out the most. He actually brought a lot of comedy to the game that I didn't expect because the game was so seriously toned from the start. But Rusty was a nice add-on. I also appreciated the work that the guy that played Roy Earl put in. He really did play a snake in the grass perfectly. I mean, that guy really did a great job playing his character. I could tell he was a scumbag as soon as I saw him. He did a great job with that little snarl and grin that Roy did throughout the whole game. But on the outside of that, some of the characters just didn't stack up. The performances were kind of uneven at times, but I think that was because the way they filmed these characters, or the actors in real life, was they bring these guys into a room and they would surround them by cameras and they just pretty much read a script and they try to act it out best they could. So that does leave some uneven sections and some facial animations and stuff a little out of place as far as what the other characters are doing. But what Team Bondi did was take a huge risk, and I think it really did pay off. Team Bondi has showed that developers that there's a better way to do things like this. To make games more human. They definitely made this game more human for me. It no longer becomes a game. It basically turns into almost a live-action video game. Okay, with all that said and done, it's time for the verdict, finally. LA Noire is a great set piece. It is a great addition to anybody's gaming library. Is it the best technical game? No. But is it a great game for storyline, immersion? Yes, it is. So in the end, I give LA Noire for the PlayStation 3 4 3/4 heads out of 5. And in my scoring system, that's an extremely high score. In fact, it is the highest score I've given a game to date. That would mean it is a 95 out of 100. This game was so close to a perfect score. If they would have wowed me with that ending, I think they would have finally got the first perfect score on my channel. But because of the letdown in the ending and some of the unevenness as far as combat is concerned, I can't give this game a perfect score, but I can give it a hell of a close one. So I want to thank, like I said, I want to thank all you guys for watching this. I want to definitely thank the guys that have been watching the playthrough from the start. I know it was a long-ass game. I'm glad you guys stuck around with me. I hope this review was sufficient and rewarding for not only you, but also for all your time through watching me play through this game. Remember, guys, rate, comment, subscribe, and also post your thoughts in the comments. As usual, I read them all. Post your thoughts. Post your mini review in the comments if you have one. I will read them and I will respond. And again, thank you guys very much for watching.